Hey guys, it's Lenny here, and today is the very first Jungle Scout Seller Roundtable. We've got a bunch of experienced Amazon sellers here on the team at Jungle Scout, which is what I think attributes a lot to our success. We've got real sellers on the team, so we thought it'd be fun to get everyone together and discuss some of the hottest topics on Amazon today. So we've got Greg, the main man, Kim from the $1 Million Case Study and the marketing team, Irvin from the Splitly team, and Dave also from content marketing. The first thing I thought would be really cool to discuss is, what's the best way to launch a product on Amazon in 2018? We know that the rules have changed a lot and things have happened with Amazon, so I thought that'd be a great place to kick it off. So Greg, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so one thing that doesn't change with launching products on Amazon is the fact that you need to get sales, all right? Before you get sales, you're stuck in the very last page of Amazon and no organic or natural shoppers are gonna find you there. So you need to get sales. My favorite way of getting sales is aggressive PPC bids, as well as giving away coupons on a deal site like JumpSend. Dave, what are your thoughts?
I'm totally for it. Obviously, the game hasn't changed too much in terms of research and things like that. I think in addition to launching and doing a lot of strong PPC ads and giving away promotions, also considering adding in some pre-marketing, things like that can really help boost you. Potentially walking with the mailing list. I've been writing about Kickstarter a lot lately is a good way for sellers to do, especially since Amazon now has an Amazon Launchpad that can help people doing crowdfunding platforms, which also helps raise money for it too. So some awesome ways there.
Yeah.
Mr. Irvin?
Aside from the points that you guys mentioned, one thing that I'd like to add would be going as far as finding influencers within your space. So say, for example, you're launching a skincare product. Well, months in advance, what I would personally do is I would find skincare influencers on YouTube, trying to find out whether or not they would be the right fit for my niche in my marketplace. And if so, I'll go ahead and reach out to them, send them maybe a free product, and have them talk about my product. I think it's a much better way than, say, reaching out to an Instagram influencer where you will simply pay them $50 for a 24-hour post. Whereas if you're reaching out to someone on YouTube, you know at the very least that the video is going to be up there for 6 months, 1 year down the road, and even then, people who are just going to be finding that channel and that video could see your product and buy your product eventually as well.
Those are two interesting points. So we've got crowdfunding and external marketing, which we'll get to in a moment, but just before we move forward, but I did hear something recently that there's a possibility that promotions may not carry the same weight that they used to. So I think you guys have been looking into this a little bit more. Could you comment on that, or do you know anything more?
Yeah, so lately the hearsay has been promotions doesn't really give a whole lot of juice to ranking in terms of ranking your product and getting your product up to the first page. But the more and more that we look into it, the more and more the myth seems to be debunked. I personally did a recent product relaunch where my product was out of stock, and from being out of stock, my product went from the first page to the very fourth page. At that point, the rumors started to come out, and then I started looking into external giveaways. After giving away about 70 or 100 products, I was eventually able to get my product up from the fourth page up to the very first page again. So after doing that, I don't think that this myth or this rumor is actually true.
Okay.
Amazon wants original products on their front pages. They don't want to see on the first page of a search result the same exact fidget spinner over and over again, the same garlic press over and over again. They want some variation. So if you're in the process of finding product, if you're not doing something that stands out, you're going to be in the background, because honestly, Amazon wants to provide options, and they don't want to have their customers to dig 5 pages deep just to find, the red fidget spinner or the, the long-handled garlic press. So that's a big piece of it too, I think.
For the product that I just launched for the $1 Million Case Study, I did, the same tactics that we always have, promotions and PPC. And saw really good sales like right off the bat. I'm already ranking on the first page for my top keyword. And also got like 8 reviews in the first couple of weeks. So it still really worked as a launch strategy for me in Europe as well. So.
How many product giveaways did you do?
I ran a giveaway for like a couple of weeks, and I think in total it was about 35 to 40 coupons that I approved.
Of those 20 or 30 redeemed, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think something to consider too is that Amazon is a business and it's there to make money.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you're paying for ads through Amazon, which is something that they profit on, they're going to give a little bit more weight to those ads,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what they want to see, and then it helps you get your products out. So
So I suppose it'd be safe to say that Amazon PPC is probably always going to be quite a good way. So possibly it's a myth then that the promotions aren't having as much weight as they used to. But let's just say in 6 months' time they were to make some changes that wouldn't allow promotions to get as far. Like, what do you guys think of as some other strategies, or how would you pivot?
I don't think it's ever going to change that you're going to need sales to get ranked well. I think that's something that's going to stick around forever, because Amazon, the listings that sell well and convert well, these are listings that they're going to show to their customers. So I don't think that's ever going away. So if they were to weight discounted sales more lightly, so like give you less juice for it, then another way you could do is just to decrease your price. Maybe decrease it so it's by far the cheapest one, so that when it does get found or when you're running PPC for it, that it's more likely to set for sales to happen, for it to convert better.
Yes.
I think that's kind of would also be like a strategy that's going to stand the test of time.
I think it's really important to make sure you launch with a really strong listing too. Really put your time into doing your research and making sure you've got good photography and that your listing is well optimized.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I did when I launched the product for the $1 million case study, is that a lot of the competitors, their listings weren't great. So I put a lot of effort into launching with a really standout listing.
Before we launch a product, we'll stay in this stage. How important do you think product differentiation is today, compared to the past? It sounds like Amazon are making some moves to maybe really consolidate the market, so that there's not 50 fidget spinners and hard for customers, and really just kind of bringing it down to the best product.
I've seen it on my own listings. A couple of years ago when I launched a product, every single one on the first search page looked exactly the same. I mean, they were clones of each other. But now if you go to that same page, it's maybe one or two of those original ones and just a huge variation. And I think that's really what Amazon wants to see. They're always going to be thinking about the customers, and the more options that they can give to help them make a better decision, the more they're going to give, right? So it really does start with creating an original product. And that doesn't mean you have to go and be an inventor or, create something in a lab or something like that to get on there. But if it's something as simple as just reading the reviews of your competitors, or looking for stuff that has a low LQS score on your product tracker or your Chrome extension, and really just taking advantage of what your future competitors are lacking, you're going to succeed on Amazon right away.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what we've always talked about at Jungle Scout, is the fact that it's important to differentiate your product. But I guess, previously we've said maybe it's a little bit of a nice to have, but perhaps it's more of closer to a need to have in today's kind of market.
Absolutely.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something to add to what Dave said as well is, I recently launched a product, just went live today. And
Congrats.
Thank you.
Hey.
So when I was actually looking at my competitors, I was looking at the reviews, and some of my competitors were having this 2-hinge design in their item. And they were specifically saying that this 2-hinge design, while it's great, this is where a lot of the failure points come from. So when I scouted for this product on Alibaba through my sourcer, I actually told her that I didn't really want this 2-hinge design on my product. Else I want something that's one-piece design, that way there's less chance of breaking, less moving parts. So I actually took this point to my bullet points as well as my photos, where I displayed how different I was from my competitors and told them how much more superior my product is. That way, the customers can easily see from my listing itself, from the bullet points and from the photos, that hey, I'm selling a much more superior product that's better for my competitors.
Good point.
It's definitely all about a holistic product strategy. Just listing, a product that is just oh, here you go, here's the most basic form. People don't want that. They want to have the entire product then and there. And I think those products like that, and the more thinking, it's which would you rather have, a BlackBerry or an iPhone?
Yeah.
Same kind of deal. It's like give them everything that they want. And the best way to do that is by looking at what your competitors are doing wrong.
Yeah.
True.
The next thing I thought of is, Dave, you mentioned crowdfunding, which is like a really interesting way of raising money for a product.
Yeah.
So I'll get your opinion in a moment, but Kim, what do you think about the idea of crowdfunding to raise funds for a product?
Yeah, I think it's an awesome way. There's a few people on the Jungle Scout team who have recently successfully ran a Kickstarter campaign for a product. It's if kind of your main barrier to entry is that it's expensive or you don't have the investment, and that's a really great way to do it. And if you've got one of these products where it's, it stands out, it has some sort of differentiator from the competition, then, people are willing to, you'd be surprised. Dave has some really great examples, but you'd be surprised at the kinds of things that people are willing to invest in on something like Kickstarter in the early stages.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a brilliant idea to me, because a lot of people, one of the barriers to entry is having capital up front, so it can solve that problem. But it's also like, if you can get money raised for your product, it's like it sort of verifies that there's demand there for it. It obviously takes, I suppose the trade-off is that it takes work, but it sounds pretty good to me. What's sort of like your strategy around it, Dave?
It has a lot of advantages. I mean, even if you do have the requisite capital to start up a product, by investing it into ads and things like that directed towards Kickstarter, you can help stretch it out a lot further right from the beginning. It helps you build automatic marketing bases. You've got people who are already fans of yours that you can leverage for future reviews and things like that. And then also, it is, we've said time and time again, Amazon is a fantastic way to make money online, but it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, right? So it will help you build the skills you need to develop great product listings and do do some early marketing that really will pay down the line. And a lot of people forget that the most successful private label product of all time, the game Cards Against Humanity, started off as a Kickstarter campaign for $4,000, and all they had was a mailing list of 1,600 people. And now look at them. I mean, they're a multi-million-dollar dirty joke card game that sold on Amazon exclusively for years. So it's huge, and you don't have to create your own game or create your own original product again. I've seen kitchen knives, I've seen water bottles, I've seen perfectly simple products to source. Just slight variations and things like that. What you're going to need anyways on Amazon. Launching on Kickstarter, raising $250,000, $500,000, sometimes $7 million with just a little bit of funding. So I think it's an awesome way to get started for sure.
Absolutely. Irvin, have you had any experience with this or anything to add?
Personally, I don't really have experience with Kickstarter, but my personal take on it is it's a perfect way to launch a product or even validate whether or not there's a market to it by seeing if there's funding going to your listing. I personally have friends who didn't quite reinvent the wheel with their product, but they were able to raise $800,000 with a Kickstarter alone. And that's just crazy numbers.
That's really cool. I suppose a thought just popped into my head, but I guess there's also the option of using things like Kickstarter to look for product ideas. What do you think about that, Greg? Is that a good way to kind of like, or another avenue to kind of like look at ideas and see what people are interested in?
I think the tough thing about looking on Kickstarter for product ideas is the fact that some people who launch these products already have like large audiences that they're marketing it to, right?
Right.
So the more money raised on Kickstarter doesn't necessarily directly correlate with what the potential demand could be. But actually, I was just talking to a Jungle Scout user just a few weeks ago who actually used Jungle Scout to validate like market demand or like what was trending or what was becoming more popular to help them decide like what niche they wanted to go into to launch a product on Kickstarter. So that's what I would recommend. Okay.
The next thing I thought it'd be cool to discuss is like, what do you guys think is like the best marketplace to launch in? We've done the $1 million case study. We've gone into Europe and we've been learning a lot more about that. Still, the US is by far the biggest, but it's a lot more competitive than the other markets. If a new seller starts today, should they just go into the US or should they look at some other markets?
I think it's definitely good to start in the US, but it all depends on the product, the category that you're launching in. I personally started in the US and only sell in the US exclusively, but I'm also thinking of bringing some of my private label items to Canada. As long as the numbers make sense, I'd totally be in for that. I have been talking with Empire Flippers as well, and they did mention that one way to get your valuation of your Amazon business up 2x, 3x, 5x is to not build a mailing list, but they actually value your Amazon business higher if you're selling different marketplaces.
Interesting.
So a couple of marketplaces that I'm thinking, and I've heard on some of the Facebook groups that are good to launch to, would be Amazon Japan and Europe.
Okay. So Kim, if you were to like launch another product or the next product for like the $1 million case study, where do you think would be a good marketplace to do it now that we've kind of seen the US and the UK?
Yeah, well, I guess with our $1 million case study products, we did start in the US, and then we launched a product in the UK. And then I think from there, you know, there's the possibility to sell in more European marketplaces like Germany.
Yes.
It does require a little extra work because you're going to have to like have a listing in German, and so you're probably going to want to like hire a VA to help out with some translation services and things like that. So, and then, you know, considering VAT across Europe. So it, as you expand, it gets a little bit more complex, but we found from doing the Europe $1 million case study, it's nothing to be afraid of. Like VAT, once we drilled down into it, wasn't as difficult as it first appeared.
Exactly.
So yeah, I definitely think expansion into more marketplaces, like Irvin said, it can add a lot of value. We saw that in a survey that we did at Jungle Scout. We surveyed a huge amount of sellers, and one of the biggest ways that that added profit to a business was to scale by launching in more marketplaces. So it's definitely a good route to go down for an Amazon seller.
Cool.
Yeah, now you can sell in Australia, right?
Yeah.
I believe so. I'm signed up to sell in Australia, but I haven't got the email back. I haven't been given the go ahead, but I'm ready and waiting. Yeah.
Don't they know you're Lenny?
Yeah. No, I know.
I always recommend to people though to sell in whatever marketplace seems easiest for you, because you know,
True.
like, especially like, again, we did a survey of this and collected a whole bunch of data, and you know, we made correlations between like people's success after 1 or 2 years and kind of like the things that led into that. And the biggest thing always was just getting started. And it seems kind of silly, but like I would have thought like the people who started with more money then were going to be the ones making more money after a year or two. But it was actually just time like in the market, which goes to show that you know, all of the Amazon marketplaces have certain niches and certain products that have enough demand to be successful. But the most important thing is just getting started. It's like whatever one seems easiest for you, that's the one I would recommend selling in.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so back to like launching still. So Irvin, how important do you think external marketing is today? Previously, it's like, you know, most of your time was probably best spent on Amazon to start with until you really got some momentum, got some sales going. But possibly there might be more emphasis on starting out with external marketing, such as, you know, Google Ads or social media and so forth. What are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. I mean, right now, still the best way is to ramp up PPC, just to get your more eyes in front of your Amazon listing, as well as doing giveaways. But aside from that, for this new product that I just launched today, one thing that I did weeks prior was to collect a bunch of Instagram and YouTube influencers, just to reach out to them, see if they would be willing to look at my product, give a review of my product, and in exchange for a free product.
Yep.
So that's one thing that I've been doing right now. A couple of things that I've been doing on top of that would be promoting a landing page giveaway through my website.
Yeah.
So that would be where I would promote this kind of giveaway to win my product or a value pack, and then in turn I would get their email address just so I can start building that email list again.
So you use like Facebook ads or something to drive people to the landing page?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So would you say that a new seller doing product research today, looking to launch a product, should be thinking about this now?
I would say it's not a necessity to think of it right now.
Okay.
But it's always a good to have. That way you can have more avenues. You're not just relying on Amazon PPC platform, but you've actually got many eyes onto your product itself. One thing that I've learned recently is Amazon does love whenever you bring external traffic and whenever that external traffic converts for your product. So I think there might be a correlation that, okay, if you help Amazon drive external traffic to their platform, they might give you much more keyword ranking or juice for that keyword.
Interesting.
Something like that. It's something that I've been testing right now, but I've been finding good results with that as well.
That's cool. What do you think, Dave? Any other thoughts?
Definitely PPC, using Facebook ads. I haven't done a lot of Facebook ads myself. I'm a huge advocate for Instagram. I definitely think Instagram is a great platform. It's visual anyway, so it's good to lead. Plus, you can put links into your profile, which is great to lead back. Honestly, in order to get your brand registered on Amazon, you're going to need your own website anyway. So doing some content marketing, writing blog posts related to your product. I believe you can sign up for the Amazon Associates program too, so you can kind of double dip by placing affiliate links to your own products on Amazon. Is a great way. Plus, it's evergreen. I mean, once you put it in there, you never really have to. You can kind of set it, and then it'll continue to drive traffic to your site.
Yep.
And then, of course, we always talk about with promotional giveaways how much it changes the ranking of your product, but it also has the implicit benefit of getting in front of more people. And if you have a great looking product already and you've done something that really stands out, word of mouth is still one of the best ways to get things out there. So, it's not just about ranking fast. And even if, people taking your products and they're, maybe they're a reseller or something like that, they're buying it low, but reselling it on eBay, it's like, who cares? Somebody's going to buy it, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting it more out there. So I run all my products with promotions, even past like that first 2 week period where, you do the launch, just because, hey, it's getting people out there. I mean, I'm sure Coca-Cola still gives away free cans of Coke, what I'm saying? So.
Absolutely. Cool. So what are your thoughts, Greg? Should a brand new seller today be thinking about building a website, social media, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go against what Irvin and Dave are saying. And I'm going to say for most beginners, I actually believe that it's not worth their time.
Okay.
So, Irvin and Dave both have experience kind of like in this particular areas. And for people who do, it's fairly easy, to like try to, or it's familiar to build, an Instagram audience around it or WordPress site or whatever else. But for people who don't already have like these digital marketing skills, I think like the learning curve is actually a little bit longer than what you guys maybe like remember or kind of realize, because you're already really familiar with it, right?
Yeah.
So I think like actually spending that same amount of time and brain power on just like launching more products and just working on the Amazon channel exclusively, in my opinion, is a better use of your time if you're just starting.
Cool. The next thing I thought we could talk about is brand registry. How important is it? And should you make the move to get a trademark in order to get brand registry? So what do you think, Kim?
I think it's well worth thinking about because there are a lot of benefits to getting into the brand registry. If you're just starting out though, you might want to launch your product first and see how it goes and then think about the process, because you've got to apply for a trademark and it takes several months to get that registered, and there's a cost involved as well. So I'd probably wait until you've launched your product, or if you're already a seller, maybe start with your best product or products.
Yes.
And get that process started, because it does take a long time.
Yes.
But then once you've got your registered trademark, you can enter the brand registry and you get things like enhanced brand content. You get better protection for your brand against hijackers as well.
Exactly.
I think for the longevity of your Amazon business, it makes sense to do this now. I heard recently that those people that were grandfathered into the brand registry, now they're also going to have to get a registered trademark too.
Yep, that's me.
That's me as well.
Yeah.
So, I've just entered the Jungle Sticks and Jungle Snugs into brand registry. It's
Excellent.
really actually an easy process once you've got the trademark. The trademark is the difficult part, and it takes time. So I do think that sellers need to be thinking about this, at least for their biggest products.
So Dave, do you think a new seller starting today should go out and get a trademark, or should they hold off a little bit?
I think you should test the waters first, kind of like they were saying. I mean, if you're going to go something like Kickstarter, then just what's one more thing with the trademarking. But if you're just going to do the traditional method, then you should think about it, and you should think about how you want to expand your brand in the future, because a lot of the benefits that the brand registry give you, you need to have a few products in place before you can really take advantage of it. And it definitely helps with conversions and things like that, with the enhanced brand content. But kind of like Greg was saying, if you're just starting out and you want to try it out, think about it, but maybe not go through the process, because it is, it's a few $100 for the application, and that's not even if you pay an attorney or something like that to do it for you, because it can be kind of a lot of red tape to get through to get some of that stuff. But I'd say think about it, because my personal opinion is Amazon wants more of that.
Yeah.
Than not.
I think it's like Kim said, that if you're in this for the long term, then it's definitely a good long term play.
Yeah.
And I'm just remembering now that last year when Gen went to the Amazon Seller Summit, I think in New York, and I think they were talking a lot about brand registry, and it sounded like they're putting a big emphasis on it. They're going to be rolling out new features to people that are brand registered. So it does sound like it's a good long term play.
Yeah. And I think when, kind of like Kim was saying, when it comes to hijackers and things like that, people jumping on your listing and selling knockoffs of your product, Amazon's hands are really tied to do anything against those sellers, unless they can say, hey, this person can legally sell this product, but you cannot. So if I have somebody jump on my listing and I don't have a TM, they're going to be like, there's not much we can do, unless customers order it and complain about it. Otherwise, it's on you. So it is important, but I wouldn't go buck wild until you tested out and said, hey, product 1 succeeded. Maybe now it's time to make Urban Co. a trademark brand.
But it does make sense to think about it early on. So say you've found a really good product, and hopefully you really believe that it's going to be a great selling product. You probably want to think about it, even if you're not going to pay for the application for the trademark, you're going to want to think about what that trademark's going to be, because there are certain criteria that you have to meet. So you need to think about what your brand name is going to be that you might potentially trademark in the future, because you're going to need to make sure that it's not already taken. I mean, it's not the end of the world if you get down the line and you have to sort of rebrand your product, or get your supplier to change the labels and that sort of thing. But if you can avoid it, then you could plan that out ahead of time and then apply for the trademark down the line.
That's a great tip, because I think you really should at least be thinking about your brand name, because if you are considering selling products in multiple categories, you want to have a brand name that makes sense and not kind of pigeonhole yourself into one category. So at least thinking about your brand name and go, okay, this is the one that I would like to trademark, perhaps doing some basic checks to see that it's available, I guess, so that you kind of know. But I totally agree with you guys that I think it's probably not something you need to do immediately. I've seen a lot of questions on YouTube and in tickets and so forth where people are freaking out like, oh, do I need, it's so expensive. I'm trying to afford the product itself, and I've got to pay for a trademark and all this. But it's kind of like, well, you want a trademark and brand registry because you're worried about hijackers and stuff. But it's like, who's going to hijack your listing if you haven't even
never get started.
You haven't got started. You've never got sales.
Right.
And even you get started, you're getting 5-10 sales a day. It's like, until you actually get sales, it's not really who's gonna want to hijack you.
And I will say this. I mean, Amazon's done a pretty good job of cleaning up hijackers. A couple of years ago, it was kind of ugly. I mean, you'd have 5 or 6 people selling copies of your product, but I haven't seen as much of that ever since they kind of same time they changed the reviews, they kind of cleaned house on all that stuff and got rid of the counterfeiters that have really been kind of bugging them. So it's not as I don't want people out there to be scared that they're going to list something and 5 Chinese manufacturers can jump on it, because it's really not like that. At most, you'll get one every now and then, and they usually, if you send them kind of a letter like, "Oh, don't you do that," they usually run away anyways.
I wouldn't say it's a huge problem anymore. I rarely run into it.
Yeah.
But to add back to the kind of the brand strategy part, I think that's a really good thing to discuss, because anyone starting today, I'd come up with a brand name that's fairly generic. For example, let's just say Twitter. Before that became a popular social media platform, no one knew what Twitter meant, right? I could pretty much sell any type of product with a brand name like Twitter that no one's quite sure what it does. And by having a very unique name like that, it should be pretty easy to get it trademarked, because as long as you search that no one else is using that.
Yeah.
Words that are commonly people's names or are very generic are much more difficult to trademark. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're coming up with your brand strategy.
Yeah.
I've done some research on this recently and asked a few sellers in our Facebook group, what people do if they're selling products across different categories. Do they have one trademark or several trademarks? And quite a lot of sellers are registering something like generic, like Twitter, obviously not Twitter, but in several categories. So when you apply for a trademark, you can pay a bit extra at the time and register that trademark in different categories, and then you can use that same overarching brand name on all of your products to enter into the brand registry. So that seems to be the way that people are doing it. So you pay a little bit more up front, but it saves you a lot of time and money in the long run.
So in 2018, what else do you guys think has changed?
So I would think if I were to talk to my old seller self back in 2016, I would just tell myself, just find a better product with better numbers and better metrics. And it comes down to knowing the numbers, knowing what my profit margin is, and leaving enough room for reorders, for pay-per-click. One thing that I underestimated as a seller would be how much I'm paying pay-per-click for. I was used to paying, cents on a dollar with Google advertising for a keyword, but little did I know that cents on a dollar would mean $2 or $3 bids on Amazon.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I definitely underestimated. Amazon PPC costs, Amazon FBA costs, and all that.
Yeah.
So I would say it's more about knowing your numbers inside and out more than anything, and then launching a good product to begin with.
So really knowing your profit margins is very important. I know that like talking to people, sometimes it's like they can't find all the costs up front and they get really stressed about it. Like for instance, they might know the product cost, but they might know the shipping cost. And so like what I tend to do is I just kind of like round it up. I try to get a few examples and it's like, if it seems like the average is like $1, I'm just gonna make it like $1.50 in my basic calculations and kind of like overestimate so that it's like if I can still get a healthy profit margin, then I should be good. But I think that's an excellent point, and I think that's probably very important, is to like really know your profit margins before you get started.
Yeah, I'll kind of add to that piggyback on what Irvin said, a lot of times like your wins or losses are made at the product research phase, right?
Yeah.
If you choose a product that doesn't have any demand on Amazon, like it's never gonna sell no matter how much you try to do to it, right? Same thing, if you try to pick something that's super competitive, it's like you're never really gonna get on those first few pages for like your search results. And if it's being sold at a price that you can't make any money, like you can't really rebound from that either. So a lot of the successes or failures happen at the product research phase, trying to finding that perfect product that's going to do well.
Building on that, it's all about patience, and I think the number one thing that makes people fizzle on entry is that they compromise the metrics that they were looking for. They said, oh, well, I know I was supposed to be looking for something that sold 10 units a day, but instead I went with 5 units a day. Or, I know I was supposed to look for something with less than 100 reviews, but, what difference does 300 reviews make? Well, a big difference, or picking a product that average price was like $15, even at a 30% boost in price, there's just no room for PPC. So it really is just about saying, hey, this isn't a race, it's a marathon. Let me find something that makes sense. Even if I have to, track 40 products or really just spend 2 or 3 months during that research phase, that research phase accounts for 80% of your profit. And if you mess up there and you do it too fast, it's not going to work. So just think about what you're selecting.
There can be a lot of fear around, is it too competitive today? Is Amazon doing this and doing that? But what I've really got today is that the fundamentals still stand. Like you said, the product research is still extremely important, or the most important thing, and that the strategies that we've always talked about with launching a product still stand. There's obviously some new things that you can experiment with, some other types of marketing, but really just trying to look at one step at a time, blocking out all the noise and just focusing on, the main steps is the way to go.
Absolutely agree. That's the one constant that hasn't changed in the last few years. It's still the same process. It's research, sourcing, importing, launching. There's little changes here and there. A social media platform might become more popular than 1-2 years ago, but it's still research. Buy it and list it.
Okay, guys, so just to wrap it up, let's just go around quickly and just one tip for sellers.
One tip for sellers is if you're watching this and you haven't gotten started yet and you worry about every last little thing, just let those go. Do your homework, put in the work like Dave said, and just get started, because that is the most important thing to be successful?
Yeah, I would say just persevere. Like, if you don't find the right product straight away, that's okay. Keep going. It does take time, but if you persevere and you find the right opportunity, then it'll be a really good business opportunity for you in the future.
Yeah. And mine is going to be very similar to Greg's in terms of like just take action and get started. But I want to kind of give you the example of like, I remember when I first started and I leaned heavily on promotions to kick things off. But I remember so many people I was talking to, they were complaining that they had to, they were complaining that they had to give away their products at $2 or $3 in order to get reviews. And then you fast forward a couple of years where that's gone and people would they'd give their left arm in order to be able to have that back. So it's like, never take for granted the current situation. You can always worry about the future or, missing out on the past, but just get started today because, things could change. So take advantage of what you've got now.
True. For me, I'm just, piggybacking on what Greg and everyone said here pretty much, but it's about taking it one step at a time. Oftentimes you get analysis paralysis, thinking, okay, how can we start an Amazon business? I need to get trademark, I need to find a product, I need to find suppliers and all that. But you don't necessarily need to think about those each step of the way. Right now your focus and your main focus could be just finding a product and dedicate 1 or 2 weeks to just find a product and make damn sure that you're finding a good product to begin with. And then once you're finished finding a product, now it comes to finding the supplier. So then make sure that you spend a reasonable amount of time finding a good supplier, vetting all the good suppliers and all that. But you don't really need to think about all the different things all at once.
Exactly.
It's just going to
Overwhelm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Overwhelm and just boggle your mind with things that may not be necessary. It's just going to take a lot of brain power.
Absolutely. Dave?
Yeah, I mean, take action. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And while, definitely move your way towards private label, because private label is not just the most profitable way to make money on Amazon, but one of the most profitable ways to make money on the entire internet. You can even start simple, take something around your house and just list it on Amazon. Get a small win in and, continue to feel good about it. And, all the while still doing the research, it'll help you get to know the system. It'll help you feel good that like, hey, I've done it. My first thing I ever sold was like a comic book on Amazon. It wasn't my own product, but that helped me say, hey, this really works. And it's only like 24 hours too. So I was really excited about that. So, don't think that you have to go buck wild and do it. I mean, our tools, Jungle Scout, works with almost everything on there, whether it's Kindle books, private label products. There's tons of ways to get started with Amazon that doesn't require some of the more involved ways that private label does. So start with that, and then as you're building your knowledge and you're doing the research, just keep it going.
All right, so that wraps up our very first Seller Roundtable. I hope you guys have got a lot of value from today's session. I hope you've got to see a few of the faces behind the Jungle Scout team that you haven't normally seen. But as you can tell, we've got a very experienced bunch of sellers, and we're going to continue to try and give you guys the best and up-to-date knowledge on selling on Amazon. So until next time, guys, take care. Bye.